Exactly.
Our friends from organized labor, that is. Yeah, so Nigel Wright is under
And
investigation.
just so people know who he is, he's Stephen Harper's chief of staff, and he, he's one of these guys who can flip back and forth from the business world to the politicians world with ease.
Well, he left Onyx Corp, which is a giant private equity firm, to come and grace Ottawa with his presence.
And
hopefully he goes back soon.
Well, this is ironically what they're saying, is that he might actually be on his way back to the private sector world, which kind of brings a whole other question up too. It's like, okay, so we know that here he is sitting as working with the government and being the chief of staff for the prime minister, and he's taking calls from Barrick Gold, and who knows what they're exactly about, and yet he'll probably just seamlessly walk right back into the corporate world. And the thing is, I bet you his job doesn't change too much.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of being a guy who's listening to the business interests, he'll be a guy telling Stephen Harper.
I got to read you another. Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
I got to read you a little bit from the National Post's editorial board, okay? And this little excerpt I take from the Yahoo.com news site, and they're talking about how, I guess, lucky Canada is that Mr. Nigel Wright decided to take a giant pay cut and come work for the government. And this, what you said about his job not changing very much when he flows in between government and the equity firm, you're probably right. Like, would he have ever really left? Like, has Mitt Romney left Bain Capital? Really? Did Dick Cheney ever really leave Halliburton?
These people leave in name only, really, when it comes down to it. They can jump right back in anytime they want.
Let me read this excerpt from the National Post. At issue was the potential for conflict of interest arising from Mr. Wright's work as a senior executive with Onyx Corporation, which has a wide range of holdings in industries ranging from aerospace to food services. NDP MP Pat Martin disdainfully sniffed that he cannot even order a pizza for the Prime Minister without being conflicted, while Bloc MPs constantly interrupted Mr. Wright's remarks. Canadians should be thankful that someone as intelligent and as accomplished as Mr. Wright would be willing to take a massive pay cut to serve his government. Instead, his experience has been akin to that of a wealthy private school transfer student who arrives at a public school and immediately is set upon by sneering classmates. This is a reflection not on Mr. Wright, but on the small-minded world of Ottawa.
Finally, the National Post is acting like the National Post. I know for a while there they were digging their heels into Harper, but I mean, this is what I expect from them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're back to normal.
It's like, oh, okay, the world isn't, we're not in bizarro world anymore.
Exactly, man.
Jesus.
My God,
I don't.
That's just one of the most bizarre 2 paragraphs I've ever read.
Yeah, absolutely. The small-minded world of Ottawa. Okay. I'm not even sure how to completely unwind that one.
I feel ashamed of my fellow Canadians for not, properly receiving the manna from heaven that is Nigel Wright as our Prime Minister's chief of staff.
Yes, we should all, bow down to Nigel Wright and his ability to move seamlessly from the corporate world to the back rooms where Stephen Harper sits behind closed doors with other corporations that he already had contact with in his business dealings.
Yeah, and speaking of conservatives and the things that we don't like about them, have you heard that 7 conservative MPs whose election victories are being challenged are asking that the court requires the Council of Canadians, the applicant in the case, to set aside $260,000 to cover legal fees in the event that the suit is unsuccessful?
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't... I mean, we've talked about it before, but it's just come back up again. I guess there's going to be a ruling soon. And it should be pointed out that the Elections Canada Act specifies that $1,000 is all a voter needs to put up in order to contest an election in court.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but the Conservatives say that $260,000 would be more appropriate in this case for some reason.
That's just another way of them bleeding the coffers of their opposition.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, it absolutely kills the case, right? Because who the heck can afford $260,000? Really? I mean,
Yeah.
it's not. We're not dealing with ethical oil here, or the oil lobby. You know what I mean? Or if those two things are different.
Hmm. So is the money that they want put up, would that pay for the government MPs legal defense if the case were to fail for the Council of Canadians? Is that what they're
Exactly.
suggesting?
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. Now, the conservative argument is that an election can be like, because this is being brought by private citizens who are seeking to overturn an election. It's not the public interest. So because this case is not being brought by Elections Canada itself, right? Then it represents a private interest and not a public interest. Therefore, they should have to put up a lot more money than $1,000. That's the convoluted logic is.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
But I mean, who knows? Maybe there's a conservative judge that's going to rule on this. You know what I mean?
Well, let's hope not.
Because the logic doesn't.
Or if it is a conservative judge, let's hope they have at least a bone of honesty.
Yeah. I mean, I'm no lawyer, but that line of reasoning makes no sense to me. Of course, the Council of Canadians turns around and says, "No, this is a fight for democracy. It's not a private interest; it's the public interest. We have nothing personally to gain from this."
What's more public than being a citizen?
I know. Anyway, I hope that this case can move forward, because we've seen stonewalling and whitewashing on every level of this whole charade. This tragic
Well, it's
charade.
something that we definitely like to keep an eye on, and like you say, I really do hope that that even if they have to come up with that money, that this case goes forward, and the Council of Canadians is able to help support these 7 individuals who are obviously dedicating themselves to something that, you know, is again another worthy fight.
Well, you know what? If they are required to put up $260,000, I'm definitely going to raid my piggy bank, and I hope a lot of other people do too, and make sure that the Council of Canadians can proceed with this, because there's literally nobody else. Elections Canada is doing a whitewash. We know that. I mean,
I saw another article, and I don't remember the exact amount, but the amount of money that Elections Canada has spent on the investigation is pretty measly as well. I think it's not. I don't even know if it was in the millions. I think it might have been a couple $100,000, and that goes to show that there doesn't seem to be a lot of traction taking place as far.
Well, seeing to the fact that while this investigation was going on, the Harper government saw fit to slash their budget by Elections Canada budget by $6 million. You know what I mean? Like, just the shameless way they go about this business of running the country is unbelievable to me, man.
They definitely know how to go
shameless.
forward with like a multi-pronged attack, and each one assists itself. Like, their strategy is multi-layered. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Each level of it has a relationship with another portion. Their attack on unions, their attack on judges. They're everything. It is an integrated and concerted effort by them to make what they want to do simpler for themselves. That's all they're concerned in, is their ideology. And I don't know about you, but anytime something's completely driven by ideology, that's when I start to get really worried. You know, like, there has to be some rationale behind the ideas. Ideology in itself is useless.
Yeah, exactly. No, you hit the nail on the head there, man. But we shall see. And I'd like to take this opportunity to point out to my NDP friends who always lump the Conservatives in with the Liberals and say there's no difference, that's what we need. You know, if I'm going to side with any party, it's the NDP. Everyone knows that. However, there is a major league difference between the Conservative Party under Stephen Harper and the Liberal Party under anybody, including even the most right wing of Liberals, Paul Martin. You know what I mean? There's a world of difference.
Yeah, to say that they're the exact same isn't fair. And as two parties that, for different reasons, are in, you know, well, the NDP feels like it's on the rise right now. The Liberals are trying to pull up their socks. The time isn't to fight right now with each other.
Right.
NDPers shouldn't be kicking at Liberals, and Liberals shouldn't be kicking at NDPers. You know, we need a little bit of a truce right now.
Yes.
So that each of these parties can move forward and look at winning some more seats in this upcoming election cycle.
Absolutely. And then I wouldn't mind seeing a coalition. Or, you know what I mean? I would not mind seeing that between the NDP and the Liberals, and all they have to do is hold Stephen Harper to a minority. And not swear off the idea of having a coalition. They should not swear off of that. You know, if they can keep the bloc out of it, and it's just the NDP and Liberals, I say they don't deny it, they don't confirm it, fight the election, and hopefully if Harper doesn't get another majority, then we want to see an NDP and Liberal coalition. Throw Elizabeth May in there for a good measure. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Everyone likes her. And yeah, but an area of contention that I can see developing, Mike, is with this Quebec flag thing. Quebec
oh, that's right.
Separatism.
Yes,
yeah.
And
Now,
that's troubling too, because as soon as the Quebec election, you know, we saw the Parti Québécois win that election, get a minority government, and it just seems like it's, you know, it's the shitstorm that has developed out of that doesn't equal with the minority government that they have. They're not going to be able to call any sort of sovereignty issues to bear right now.
no, they have a minority government. They're not going to be able to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're the only. So I think people should. Myself, I think people should relax about it. But we do see the Liberals making hay with this and I think they see an opportunity to split the vote in Quebec and right up the middle, because what we have is Stephen Harper and Thomas Mulcair not saying a word. No one from the Conservative Party or NDP party are saying a word about the fact that Pauline Marois, the new Premier of Quebec, has decided that the Canadian flag will not fly in the Quebec National Assembly.
And it's another one of these issues too, where we're fighting about a symbol. You know, that's it. Really, at the end of the day, whether that flag is there or not, it actually has no bearing on the relationship of the Quebec government with Canada. Like, if they're not in a position of strength, and of course the Parti Québécois is going to do this to, you know, again, it's as a symbolic move, because they know that it speaks to a certain portion of their base, and it makes them appear like they're in ready to go into battle more aggressive. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's a flag in a room.
Exactly. It's a symbol. But my point is now the NDP gets to feel what it's like to have a third party nipping at their heels. You know
because I'm sure they beat on the Liberals before on issues like this as well.
Absolutely. And now you and I both agree that, like you said, it's a symbol. This is not the end of the world. Okay, so our flag doesn't fly. You know, okay, it's a flag. It's not our Constitution. They just didn't decide to ignore the Constitution. You know what I mean?
Right.
That they didn't sign, but they still adhere to it. Insofar as, you know what I mean? Insofar as they do, until they have to use the notwithstanding clause, which they have done to support their language laws, right? And the notwithstanding clause was never contained in the British North America Act. It's contained in the Canada Act, right?
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know how they invoke the notwithstanding clause without being a signatory to the Constitution that contains the clause.
I also read somewhere
so
too
it's a formality, right? It's a formality.
Yeah, absolutely.
We are one country. This is Canada. Quebec's part of Canada. Them flying the flag or not flying the flag makes no difference to the fact that they are part of Canada. Yet we have Stéphane Dion standing outside the National Assembly saying, Mr. Harper is not able to say, I love the Canadian flag. I hope the Canadian flag will be seen in every legislative assembly across this great country. He's not able to say that? I can't believe it. Stéphane Dion. I like that guy. You know why? Because he didn't put Thomas Mulcair in that statement.